Good afternoon, everyone. That right there should be an indication that we've reached the English portion of our program. I've been advised to talk as slowly as possible, which is going to be a challenge for me. I hail from the great state of New Jersey, very close to New York. So if any of you have ever been there, perhaps you feel, as I did coming to Sao Paulo, everybody speaks very quickly. As Flavio was kind enough to mention, I'm the Senior Customer Experience Manager with Liferay in the US, and I'm here today to talk about some use cases that we have seen from our customers and hopefully provide some insight on how they can improve your investment with Liferay. So right off the top, digital transformation, the promise of a competitive advantage, right, often focuses on customer experience and the value that customers or your end users are getting, which is very much true. But one of the other parts of the digital transformation really is what's going on behind the scenes. And that's really what I want to talk about today, the operational efficiencies, and just as importantly, being able to empower your users, your employees, and the people who are working with customers to give them the tools and the information that will create those delighted users. So the reason that we want to talk about this today is because there's an opportunity, we feel, perhaps, to maximize your investment with Liferay. As a customer experience manager, this is what I see personally with the customers that I talk to. It's very often a customer will come to us, a Liferay customer will come to us to solve a very specific business problem, not thinking at all specifically about other opportunities or other problems that Liferay can solve. But when I canvass or look at the different customer solutions, they're very broad. And there's a great variety of different things that Liferay can do and ways that our customers are using Liferay. So this is why we want to talk about that today. So the first thing we did was take a look at what Gartner says about the ways that Liferay is being used. This is the capability. Oh, there we go. So this is our critical capabilities document that you can see 4 different areas that Liferay is commonly being used for, right? So there's public customer sites, there's B2B, partner and suppliers, digital workplace, and also application integration, right? So that's great. I mean, that's definitely what we see with our customers, but we took another look at all of the Liferay customers in the US to see how deep, how broadly they're using the product, right? And what we found is while there are some that are using it up to 7 different use cases, a vast majority, a disproportionate number, almost 50%, have a simple use case. They're just using Liferay in one particular way. So we went ahead and dove a little bit deeper and looked into what are the different ways that customers are using Liferay. And we did see digital workplace is the most common use case, then a public website, learning management, and customer collaboration. There's a reason that below this there should be more information, which I don't know why it's not being shown, but it doesn't matter. The 5th one is an integration site, and then we have a number of common individual use cases that are more one-offs, right? Like ERPs or dashboards, learning management, etc. But these top 4 plus 1 different use cases are the ones we're going to talk about here today. I'd like to present you with some examples of what our customers are doing with Liferay, and perhaps give you some ideas how you also could take advantage of this investment that you've already made. So, number 1, digital workplace, right? So really this is a place that we are using, collaborating information and providing employees, intranets that are a collaboration of different tools and applications that are meant to empower your users. Right? And their users could be an employee, it could be students, etc. But basically, wherever people are trying to get work done for to an end user or customer, right? One of the things that's important too is creating this customer-centric workforce. You perhaps saw a session earlier today about creating a journey map. We'll talk about that a little bit more today. I'm going to dive into it a little bit more tomorrow. Hopefully, this is something that if you haven't already invested in organizationally, it's something that you're considering because there are so many different points of contact that your customers have, and making sure that you are idealizing and making those the best possible experience at each of those points. It's a very important way to differentiate yourself. So in a digital workplace, we have an example from our customer of ours, Coach. So Coach creates, it's a luxury accessories brand based out of New York, but they have over 1,000 different retailers, right? And across those retailers, right, you had, I think, 25,000 different employees. Previous to Liferay, they had 3 different systems that these different employees had to navigate to, they had to log into it multiple times, including a WebSphere portal that was very bloated and expensive and hard to manage. So with Liferay, what they did is they created a single dashboard here, collapsing all that information into one very easy to navigate site. And based on who you were in the organization, this picture might change. This information changes based on the notifications. I mean, if you take a look up here, I think this is very interesting. All these different buttons here were different applications that the users had to log into at different points. Now it's a simple click-through. So yeah, I mean, it's probably a pretty obvious solution to some of you, right? I mean, this is not groundbreaking. Certainly, it's an ideal. But we as Liferay promote this, but what happened was from the success of that site called CoachWeb, they looked at a different opportunity. And this is a visual merchandising site. This is actually a picture of one of their storefronts. So I mentioned over 1,000 different stores, retail stores, worldwide. Everything in this picture is determined by management. You don't get to pick where the dinosaur goes. You don't get to pick what bag goes next to what bag. Everything here is determined by corporate. And the way they managed this originally was by printing out pages, 1.5 million pages every year, and mailing it out to the retail offices, and having them create their displays, right? Now, the problem with that, of course, is beyond the cost and the time it takes to do that. There's very little oversight. And there's very little opportunity for feedback. What's working? What isn't working? What are customers more drawn to? Especially in different regions. Perhaps you have an organization that has different offices around the world, as Coach do, as we do. Things are different depending on where you go. So what they created was a completely digital application optimized for an iPad, because of course people are not walking around the store with a computer, right? Optimized for an iPad. They were able to deliver all that content, have people take pictures, submit them for approval. There was a collaboration piece which allowed people to suggest comments for corporate to identify areas that needed to be changed. Again, like maybe this red bag should be next, maybe this bag should be in the middle. I don't know. But through that, they were able not just to streamline this process and create employees that are obviously much happier using it. They saved 1.5 million pages of paper, over $500,000 every year in printing, paper, and shipping costs. And that was based, again, remember, on the opportunity from the CoachWeb experience and taking a look and say, hey, Liferay does this great. Where else can we find an opportunity? Number 2 is extranets. So secure locations, right, for a subgroup of either vendors, suppliers, particular users in your organization, right? And one of the keys of an extranet, right, one of the goals is that consistency. And we've heard about omnichannel experiences and making sure they're consistent, but that's true especially with vendors and suppliers. We don't often think of them in the same way. So a nice example of a Liferay extranet comes from VW. VW of America had some sales goals, and they realized they had a problem. They had a very complex, antiquated system that slowed down the ordering process and the delivery process, right? And many of them were legacies. So what they used to do at Volkswagen, or what they found also when they investigated with their customers, they found that people came in very excited, but by the time they left, they were frustrated. Now again, we talked at the beginning about being a differentiator. Volkswagen saw an opportunity not just to create a digital transformation that would help with their operational improvements, but also differentiate that experience from other car buyers. In fact, when they investigated it, they found out that people really hated going to a car dealership. And it's probably pretty consistent everywhere in the world, right? As a matter of fact, 60% would rather go to a dentist. I don't know whether I can even remember. So this is dentist. This is giving up Facebook. This is giving up your iPhone. This is 30% would give up your iPhone. Some people hated it so much, you can read it for yourself. So what was the result? The result was over 1 million cars sold and over $1 million in savings. That's number 2. Number 3, self-service portals. So allowing your users to provide services, activities for themselves in order to reduce the operational overhead for your organization and also increase their satisfaction because it's often very quick, it's personalized, and they get a sense of empowerment and engagement for your company. Self-service customer portals. Suez Waste Management is a customer of ours down in Australia. I need to take a drink. That was very stressful. Was a waste management customer of ours in Australia. 2,600 employees, 56,000 business customers, almost 4 million individual users. And they created this app, mainly native mobile, on Liferay, to help their users do a lot of the things that previously they'd have to log into and manage through the website. And some of the things like scheduling extra trash pickups, paying bills online, being able to get reports out on previous payments, and also these other random sort of things like information about disposing of batteries, cardboard, and even animal carcasses. I mean, I guess it's an Australian thing. I mean, we don't have a lot of that in New Jersey, no matter what you think. But the thing about this, again, is it seems like a simple solution. And that's the best part of it. It's elegant. It is simple. Behind the scenes, Suez has over 50 different applications feeding into this one native app that previously their customers had to navigate. I don't know if it was all individually, but they had to navigate all these different systems through different logins and through different interfaces. One interface, one opportunity, smooth self-service. Public websites. So we're all familiar with a public website. I know, obviously, these are they're pretty broad in stroke. Often they are promoting branding or marketing, identifying lead opportunities, lead generation, conversion, education, et cetera. But what we also see with Liferay is often our customers and enterprise has a need for a public website to be a gateway to a protected site. So authentication, personalized content, and consistency of experience across that customer journey is very important, something that Liferay does. So Banyan Tree is a luxury vacation site that has all these beautiful destinations that you can go and book online. And this solution, needed to reflect the beauty and the elegance of what their product promises and promotes. But beyond that, you need to have a site, right, that can understand who those users are and deliver content that's curated and specific to them, even if you don't know them individually, even if they're not logged in. If I go to this site and click on Rio de Janeiro, right? If I want to go to Rio, or Rio, right? Rio, thank you. I learned that last night. And 1 kiss versus 2, I learned that last night also. If you wanted to do, if you were looking at Rio, and you went, you navigated around maybe to some other sites, and then you came back and clicked on that page again, perhaps they start showing you other opportunities in LATAM. I don't know why you would want to go anywhere else, but that information is key to creating a loyal, dedicated customer as they go through that process, as they go through that customer journey. And you can see it's a very pretty site. Again, these are all things that are done here in Liferay, but can be done with Liferay. I guess I have to wait to the end. Okay. 5, integration platform. So this was listed number 5 in our survey, but I honestly think, from my experience, this is pretty much the most common use case. People just don't think of it like that. Our portal heritage and legacy delivers an exceptionally robust opportunity for integrating back-end systems applications, right? It's always been a strength of ours. And I think our customers I speak with endorse that as well. You might not think of that if you're talking about a B2B, B2C, but this is really an underlying factor, right? Being able to promote that. But it's also valuable to extend legacy systems, right? Not everybody is ready to make this full leap into digital transformation. You might have systems that are homegrown or already paid for, and you want to be able to keep that. We're great at that too. So Unisys is an IT solutions provider. They have hundreds of different other IT, they service other IT organizations. And what they did here was coordinate applications on the back end that were specific or different for different customers, but create this dashboard that is pulling information in from those different systems and displaying it dynamically based on, of course, who you are and what information you need to see. So this isn't a static page, and of course there's video up on top and everything, but all these different metrics here, some of them are changing dynamically. And again, this is all different systems in the back end. We're just pulling it in and displaying it. This is very, very popular for them. It's dynamic, the cards flip over, and again, they have, as they want to integrate new applications, if they take on new customers that have different services that they need, they can put that, they have, and they will continue to add those applications and services into this dashboard. So they have this legacy product that is available for them over the long haul. So what? Why is this important? Well, as we were talking about As we were talking about at the beginning, many of you have made investments in Liferay, or considering making an investment in Liferay. And what we see is there's real value in investigating where other opportunities lie within your organization. You already have an investment in the services, in the support, in the training of your employees, perhaps in the partners that you're using. You have IT staff and administrative staff that are running these projects. Being able to reuse that content and reuse the capabilities that you've already invested in can create a tremendous ROI, but also, as we go back to considering the customer experience and the differentiation of a digital transformation, that the digital transformation promises, unifying experiences, breaking down silos, understanding how someone at one point of your journey is very different than someone else in the journey, but knowing how they got there can be incredibly powerful. If you're an organization like a school, and you're looking at lead applications who are new students, by the time they graduate and become alumni, you might be able to reconnect them with other people they went to school with, or perhaps tap them for contributions to the organization based on the things that they were interested in, perhaps when they were a student. It's a very simple explanation, but many organizations think of lead generation as one point, student as another point, alumni as another point, but the value is tying that all together. The difficulty is tying that all together, but the value is tying that all together. And that's the real differentiator. So, where do we go from there? Again, if you went to the journey mapping session, this may be somewhat familiar to you. But this is like a simple journey map of a typical customer, right? A typical user in a journey. And you have a prospect, a customer, and an advocate. And I apologize if this always is retail. This conversation, even as a customer experience manager, is always retail focused. It's not always a customer who buys something. Again, it could be a student, it could be an employee, and onboarding and management, et cetera, as they graduate through the ranks. But if you look here, we can layer in all those different Liferay solutions. Some of these were not on that black and red chart. Most of these were not on that black and red chart, but these are the different ways that we found people using Liferay. And if you look at these different phases, you have a prospect phase. So you have your public website. Someone comes, investigates your product, and then perhaps they purchase and become a customer. Those are two different sites and two different solutions. Then you empower them by providing them training or information on how to use something or interact with your organization. Then you let them self-determine how they want to interact and empower them further by letting them make certain decisions. If they have a problem, they can go to support, log a ticket. And finally, at the end stage, once you want them to become advocates, you're providing collaboration tools, communication tools, to help them really get to that next level and then become advocates and start promoting you. Now, again, and of course on the back end, what we talked about is empowering your users, your workforce, to help them create delighted customers, giving them the information, single customer reviews, pulling all that information in a way that allows them to interact with your customers that make your customers happy. So, with that in mind, how do you do it? Again, this is going to be your down and dirty version, right? You want to map out the whole journey, right? You want to understand, you need to understand where are the different points that your users are interacting with your organization, what are those touch points, and what are the ones that you can optimize and then you can improve. And that's a big deal. I say that, don't say that very lightly. That is a big step, but it's an important step. Because how you invest your time and your resources and your money, organizationally, personally, you don't want to waste it on things that are not important. If you come to my session tomorrow, Journey Mapping and Moments of Truth, we'll talk about that in much more detail. So secondly, identifying those pain points. You know, oftentimes, it's the things that are hardest to do. Again, we'll talk about that tomorrow. But where are your organizational pain points? You probably know a lot of them. And then finally, the beauty of Liferay. You can reduce, reuse, and recycle. Collapse those different systems that you have, the different applications that you have. Retire, for example, a customer of mine was using FatWire for all of their document management. It's a big bank, global bank. It's one right around the corner from my hotel, right? And they were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a year simply to create web content and documentation. Within a year and a half, FatWire was gone. And they didn't have to spend another dime with Liferay to be able to use our CMS and our document management to be able to replace what they did. Reduce. Talk to our speed consultants, talk to our salespeople, talk to anybody here if you have any questions about that. That's the great thing about this event. Right, there's so many resources here, and they'd be more than happy to talk to you about this if you have any other questions. Reuse. Reuse those portlets, those applications, the solutions that you built. You know, a lot of what we're talking about, all those different sites, don't require rebuilding them. You know, centralized libraries and applications can be distributed across multiple sites. The VW site's a perfect example. All those sites are. The Coach site, I know them, both of those personally. You know, they have a centralized center of excellence that is building applications and building content and distributing it globally. I didn't mention this before, but the Coach site is all localized based on the region. That's not a separate operation. And finally, recycle. You're using, as I mentioned, you're using our support staff, you're using your own internal IT, your system administrators, our partners. All of these combined create real opportunities for affecting both your customers and your organization. So, with that, I believe that's my last slide. So anyway, with that, I thank you for your time. Everybody's been, this has been a great event for me so far. There's a real lot of enthusiasm. I've had some great I'm speaking fast again. I've had some great conversations with a lot of people and hope to speak with many of you today or tomorrow. So thank you.
Thank you very much.